What's good, everyone? It's Zach, and welcome back to grailboundgaming. Now, a few months ago, I created a poll on the community page asking you all which of my home consoles would you like to see my video game collection for? And guess what? The PlayStation 3 won. So I knew that I could not end 2025 without showcasing the PlayStation 3 collection, because that's exactly what we are going to do now. Now, right behind me, there are over 300 unique games in my collection. So without further ado, let's get to it. So I have about 6 rows of PlayStation 3 games. You can see that the last row right there has an extra space to add more games to it. And all of these games are not only categorized alphabetically, but they are also categorized according to genre. So as we go through each row, you'll see different groups of games according to their genre in alphabetical order, and I will also give some recommendations per genre. So the first genre that I'm going to go through right now is called For the Kids, and it starts at 3D Dot Game Heroes and goes all the way through to Wally. Now, these are all E-rated titles that you can get for your children, and I do have a couple of recommendations. The first one being 3D Dot Game Heroes, developed by Atlas. It's no surprise that children these days love Minecraft and Roblox, and this is the game where you pretty much get to create your own hero out of these blocks, right, out of these cubes, and you get to go on this adventure that is in the style of the Legend of Zelda games. So this is definitely one to look out for sure if you have kids. And then another one that I do want to recommend is Tornado Outbreak. If you're familiar with the Katamari games, you roll pretty much a ball around, and the more things that you roll over, the ball just gets bigger and bigger. It's that same type of concept, except you play as a tornado. So as you're going, traveling across different levels and things like that, whatever debris, whatever you can pick up, whatever you destroy, allows your tornado to become bigger and bigger. So yeah, those are 2 really cool E-rated games for the children. And let's see, the next set of games are the PlayStation Move compatible games. Now, there are other games in my collection that are PlayStation Move compatible, but these are the ones that I feel are best played with PlayStation Move controls. And it starts at Angry Birds Star Wars and goes all the way through to Time Crisis Raising Storm. So as far as it goes, there's definitely a couple of recommendations that I do want to make. The first one, of course, being Michael Jackson, the king of pop, being able to experience all of his iconic hit songs and dance to them. That's a really cool one right there. And then another one that I want to recommend is the Time Crisis Raising Storm, because it not only includes Time Crisis 4, it also includes this other game called Dead Storm Pirates. So those are 2 to look out for sure. Okay, so now we're gonna move forward into the PlayStation 2 HD collection games. Now, if you've been watching my channel pretty much since the beginning, I did make a video on these titles specifically, but it's definitely great to go through them again. And it starts from the Devil May Cry collection and goes all the way through to Zone of the Enders. So what are my recommendations? Well, obviously, Jak and Daxter collection, you get the first 3 games in the trilogy, so that's no surprise there. There's the Infamous collection right here. You got both of the Kingdom Hearts. If you want your Ratchet and Clank, for those of you out there who are fans of Ratchet and Clank, you have this collection that includes the first 3 games. Same thing with like Sly Cooper. There are just so many amazing PS2 HD collections for the PlayStation 3. I can't forget about talking about Echo and Shadow of the Colossus. That's just another one. So yeah, definitely look out for those titles, all these titles that were originally on the PlayStation 2 and were ported over to the PlayStation 3 and given an HD resolution upgrade. Okay, so now that we talked about that, let's go ahead and move over to platformers. We're gonna talk about platformers, and it starts at Alice Madness Returns and goes all the way through to the last Sonic game right here, Sonic Unleashed. And what are my recommendations? Well, let's go and start with Alice, right? So Alice Madness Returns is pretty much the sequel to McGee's Alice, which is the first game. What's unique about the PlayStation 3 version, and maybe the Xbox, but for sure the PlayStation 3, you can play the original McGee's Alice. There's like a online pass for you to download it, and Yeah, you could do that with the 360 version, but with the the 360 store being shut down, your best bet is to get the PlayStation 3 version to download it. So that's one recommendation right there. Another recommendation that I definitely want to make is Puppeteer, which is right here. This is an exclusive platforming title, side-scrolling platforming title for the PlayStation 3. It's a little bit similar to the Little Big Planet games, but it has a very unique art style because it looks almost like an art book come to life, like a live play art book, if you will. So this is definitely one to check out for sure. And of course, you got all of your Ratchet and Clank games. Obviously, you got some Sonic games here, like Sonic Generation. That's also on the 360. So yeah, there's a lot of great platformers out there that you should keep your eye on. Okay, everyone, so now it's time to move on to the hack and slash games. And it starts with Afro Samurai right here. And then we're gonna go ahead and go to the next row. And yeah, there's like a ton of hack and slash titles for the PlayStation 3. And it goes all the way through to X-Blades, right? Which is right here, X-Blades. So what are some recommendations? Well, definitely Afro Samurai. If you're into that anime, you definitely got to be able to pick this up and play it for sure if you're a fan of that show. And then if we go down here, another recommendation that I do want to point out is the Azura's Wrath. Azura's Wrath. This is pretty much kind of like a fighting game, almost like a beat 'em up, but it's still considered to be like a hack and slash game that's very unique. So if you see this one in the wild, definitely pick it up for sure. And let's see, what are some other titles? Oh yeah, Nier. So those of you that are familiar with Nier, Nier Automata or Nier Replicant, this is the first game in the series. And Nier Replicant is the first game, but it has a different protagonist. So you can still play Nier on the PlayStation 3. I highly recommend getting into this series for sure. All right. And then I believe the final recommendation that I do want to make, of course, is No More Heroes, right? So this is actually a port of the very first game that, originally came out on the Wii. And yeah, it basically got ported over to the PS3. It was given like an HD upgrade. It was given PlayStation Move compatible controls. This is definitely one to look out for if you want to relive the first game in its definitive edition. Okay, so now that we've gone through the hack and slash games, now it's time to move into the RPGs. And let's see, it starts at Dragon Age Origins Ultimate Edition, and then it keeps going to the end of this row. And then we got to jump down here. We got to jump down here to the next row. And it pretty much ends at XCOM Enemy Within. When it comes to RPG games for the PlayStation 3, there's such a variety in the subgenres. It could be action-based, turn-based, it can be real-time strategy. There's just a lot of variation when it comes down to RPGs for the PlayStation 3. And I definitely want to share some of my recommendations, starting off with Dragon's Crown. Now, this game was developed by Vanillaware and published by Atlas, and it's a side-scrolling action RPG where you get to pretty much pick 6 different classes that you can play as. This is a great one to definitely have and play for the PlayStation 3, and it's very affordable for sure. The next game that I do want to highlight is Star Ocean: The Last Hope International. Now, Star Ocean: The Last Hope was originally released on the Xbox 360, and it was an exclusive to that console for a little while. And then eventually, the PlayStation 3 received its port in the International Edition, which comes with like different extra content that's exclusive to the PlayStation 3 that you will not get on the 360. This game is very affordable, like $10 or less. So if you do see it, definitely pick it up for sure. And let's see, I may have like probably at least one more recommendation, which is really a group of 3 games. It's the 3 Tales games here. You have Tales of Grace's F, you have Tales of Xillia, right? And then Tales of Xillia 2. Right, so I highly recommend getting all 3 of these games for the PS3. Obviously, Tales of Grace's F and Tales of Xillia released for the modern consoles, and I believe Tales of Xillia 2 is probably in development and will be released on modern consoles. But guess what? If you own a PlayStation 3 or looking to own all 3 of these games, on an older console, the PlayStation 3 is definitely it for sure. Okay, now that I've gone through the RPGs, now it's time to look at the fighting games. And it starts at Dead or Alive 5 Ultimate and goes all the way through to Virtua Fighter 5. So what are my recommendations? Well, I absolutely love fighting games. I've been playing fighting games since they were in the arcade, and I just really love fighting games. It's such a great variation of games that you could find within this genre. So here are my recommendations. Dead or Alive 5 Ultimate. This is a cool one to definitely look out for. Man, Dead or Alive 5 has always been ahead of the curve when it comes to graphics. There's like a ton of different characters, both male and female. This is honestly probably the best Dead or Alive game that's out there. I know that the next one in the franchise after this one received a lot of criticism and didn't perform as well, but Dead or Alive 5 is amazing. And this is the ultimate version where it comes with, once again, all the characters. You get some extra characters, you get costumes as well too. So yeah, this is a really great one to own for sure. All right, the next one I want to talk about is Mortal Kombat Complete Edition. This is pretty much Mortal Kombat 9 in the franchise. And if I'm being really honest with you all, I honestly really had no interest in Mortal Kombat fighting games at all. Like, I just really didn't see the appeal of them. And this game pretty much opened my eyes because it's for sure like an amazing game. Like, the type of combos that you could pull off in Mortal Kombat 9 is just insane, right? And what's unique about the PlayStation 3 version is that you can see right here, you can play as Kratos, the God of War. So the Xbox 360 doesn't even have anything like that. But the fact that it's on PlayStation, you can play as Kratos. And then of course you get like, 4 additional characters. Since this is the complete edition, you get, all the costumes for each character, different crazy fatalities. I mean, this is where it's at. If you see this in the wild and it says complete edition, pick it up because it needs to be the complete edition. Okay, if you're a Persona fan, then there's definitely a couple of fighting games, Persona 4 Arena and then Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, right? So yeah, you can play as your favorite character from the Persona 4 series, along with their Persona. Okay, next up is a fighting game franchise that's definitely near and dear to my heart, and that's the Soul Calibur games. And this is Soul Calibur 4, where you can play as Darth Vader. He's the secret character, if you will, for PlayStation. And then there's Soul Calibur 5, which is right here. Okay, here's another one to point out. Street Fighter Cross Tekken. Man, so this is when they basically made both of these franchises collide in a fighting game. And the graphics are pretty much a reflection of Street Fighter 4, right? So man, I really want them to make another Street Fighter Cross Tekken game. I think it was supposed to be Tekken Cross Street Fighter. I think that was the next step, but it never came to fruition. So hopefully that can happen one of these days. But man, such a really cool game. It's 2v2, so you can control 2 characters going against 2 other characters, and you can switch out between them. It's such a great game. Absolutely worth looking into. And then there's another one I want to highlight. It's the Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. This is definitely a worthy successor to Marvel vs. Capcom 2. So definitely check this out. And this is the fact that it says Ultimate. It includes all the DLC, all the characters, outfits, you name it. This is the one to pick up for sure. Very affordable. And the last fighting game that I want to mention is Ultra Street Fighter 4. Now, Street Fighter 4 is so iconic because it definitely revived the fighting game community and the EVO tournament as a whole. But, they kept on coming out with different versions. There was like Super Street Fighter 4. There was Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition. And then the last edition to release was Ultra Street Fighter 4. So it comes with all the characters, like all 44 characters, all costumes. You can actually select which version of the character you want. So for instance, right, if you play as Ken, you can choose to pick Ken from the original Street Fighter 4, or you can pick Ken from like the arcade edition, and you'll see like the different upgrades in his fighting mechanics that they improved upon with each additional release after the original release. So yeah, definitely look out for Ultra Street Fighter 4. You can't go wrong with that one. Okay, so now that I've talked about the fighting games, I want to move on to the racing games. And it starts at Blur, and then it ends at Twisted Metal. I have only a couple of recommendations, even though there are some great, amazing racing games on the PS3. I first want to highlight Blur. So Blur is what people call real life Mario Kart, because you can see on the back here, there's different power-ups that you can collect while you are, on the track. There's different power-ups that you pick up. And what's cool is that it's pretty much real racing, right? There's real world locations. There are real brands for these vehicles that you can drive, right? So it's not like a made up vehicle. No, these like cars actually exist in real life. And that's what makes this game very unique. Definitely pick this one up if you do see it. And then the next and last recommendation that I have is Split Second. So imagining being on a action death racing TV show, and you're able to pretty much trigger certain events on the track to take out your opponents. Like for instance, right, you can see this airplane in this photo right here. If you're traveling on this track, you can actually trigger an event where this plane lands and anyone who's in its path will just be destroyed. So imagine like Burnout with, being able to trigger events. That's what Split Second is, and it's so cool. Definitely get this one for sure. All right, so after the racing games, I want to talk about the horror video games, and it starts at Alien Isolation and goes all the way through to the next row here and ends at Splatterhouse. Let's see, a couple of recommendations that I do want to make for the horror video games. Jericho's one that you don't hear enough about. This is Clive Barker's Jericho. It is a first-person shooter horror game, right? A first-person shooter horror game. So definitely check this one out when you can. And then the second, before we go down to the next row, my other recommendation on this row is Condemned 2 Bloodshot. Now, if you know anything about this game, this is the sequel. The prequel, or the first game, is only available on the 360, which means that it is exclusive to that console. But the second game came out on the 360 and on the PS3. This is regarded as like one of the most unique horror video games that are out there, because you play as an agent who is trying to uncover all these killings by a serial killer in the city. And this is the sequel, so definitely look out for this one for sure, because the first game is exclusive to the 360. Okay, now we can move down to this row. All right, I may have said this in another video, but I do want to repeat it here again. This is a recommendation, the Silent Hill HD Collection. I highly recommend this game because this is the most affordable way to play Silent Hill 2 and 3. If you are familiar with the value of those two games on the PlayStation 2, you're going to be paying well over 100, at times even well over 200 for the second game. So why not just get this for $20 to $25 brand new? Definitely check out Silent Hill HD Collection. Okay, so now that I finished off with the horror games, it's time to go into the superhero games. So first, going to start off with the first Batman Arkham Asylum. This is the Game of the Year edition, and it goes all the way through to X-Men Origins Wolverine. So what are my recommendations? Well, obviously there's like a ton of Spider-Man games that you can play on here. I think for the most part, if you've been collecting for PS3 for a while, you know about the Spider-Man PS3 games. Those are like definite ones to get. But outside of that, I have to go with the Ultimate Alliance games, right? We have Ultimate Alliance 1 and Ultimate Alliance 2 right here. If you played the X-Men Legend games on any of the 6th gen consoles, it's pretty much similar in nature to that, right? Like you pick, I believe, up to 4 characters. It's four player co-op, so it's local 4-player co-op for these games. And yeah, you get to play as your favorite superhero. This one was actually a launch title for the PlayStation 3. So yeah, definitely worth looking into those. And then of course, my final recommendation is the last game here. It's X-Men Origins Wolverine Uncaged Edition. If you are looking for an absolute raw Wolverine game, as a Wolverine game is supposed to be, then definitely look out for this one. This is considered to be the best Wolverine game out there. And of course, with the new Wolverine game hopefully coming out next year, that game is supposed to top this game. But this is the game that pretty much like set the standard for Wolverine games. So yeah, shout out to Hugh Jackman. Definitely pick this up when you can. Okay, now that we've gotten through the superhero games, it's time to move into the action adventure games, starting with the first Assassin's Creed game. And there are just so many action adventure games here, but it all ends off at this Yakuza game here that I'll talk about in a little bit. So what are my recommendations? Man, like I said, there's so many amazing, action adventure games for the PlayStation 3, but I think I'm gonna point out maybe just a couple of recommendations. The first one is pretty much a compilation of some PlayStation Network games. You get 4 on 1 disc, right? So if you could find this, definitely get it for sure. And it includes 4 games. It includes When Vikings Attack, Sound Shapes, Tokyo Jungle, and Fat Princess. So you get all 4 of these games in one, and they're all really unique. And then of course, the other game that I do want to recommend is Yakuza Dead Souls. This is definitely a bit on the pricier end, but imagine if, there's a zombie outbreak and it's in the Yakuza universe. And by Yakuza, I mean the franchise, right? So yeah, really, really cool. Really, really cool. Definitely check those out for sure. Okay, now that we went through the action adventure games, it's time to move down to the third-person shooters. And just like the action adventure, there's like a lot. There's like so many action adventure games. Sorry, so many third-person shooter games that you can see here. And it starts at Aliens, Colonial Marines, and it goes all the way to BioShock, right? This BioShock Ultimate Edition that includes both the first 2 BioShock games. What are my recommendations? Well, let's see. Binary Domain. This is a really, really cool one, right? So this takes place in a futuristic Tokyo, Japan, and there are these humanoid robots that have malfunction and have gone rogue, and you're part of this team that has to go up against them because they are a threat to this futuristic version of Tokyo. What's unique about this game is that it's not only like a third-person cover-based shooter, but if you have like a Bluetooth headset, like a Bluetooth wireless headset, if you will, then you can actually give commands to your different teammates. You can tell them to hide, you can tell them to attack the enemy, you can have them cover for you, just all these different commands that you can give to your team members. This is a really, really cool one to look out for. And as we move forward, obviously, Metal Gear Solid 4, I mean, this game is definitely ahead of its time and one of the most unique Metal Gear Solid games out there. So if you're a huge Metal Gear Solid fan, you can get this one for very cheap, like $10 or less. As always, I'm going to recommend the Uncharted games, Uncharted 1, 2, and 3, staples, amazing staples games for sure. And the last recommendation that I have is Vanquish, which is like a crazy third-person shooter, over the top because it's Sega. Man, this is one to get. I'm talking like crazy action, quick time events. It's a cover-based shooter. This is insane. This game is insane, right? So yeah, definitely look into picking that one up. Okay, everyone. So now that we went through the third-person shooter games, it's time to get into the first-person shooter games. And I made a mistake by saying that the third-person shooter games ended at BioShock. It actually ended off at this game called Wet. And the very first first-person shooter game in my collection is Aliens versus Predators. And then as you can see here, it just continues to go through the Call of Duties all the way down to this row right here. And we're gonna keep moving along, and keep moving along, and it ends off at Wolfenstein right here. What are my recommendations for first-person shooters? For me, I really like first-person shooter games that have maybe a supernatural element to it. Like, it's not just like your standard first-person shooter game like the Call of Duties, but there's something unique about it. There's something different about it, right? So one of the recommendations I have is called Body Count. So people say that this is the sequel to Black, right? If you've played Black on any of the 6th gen consoles, or maybe just, I think it only came out for the Xbox and for the PS2, then This is the sequel to Black. If you never played Black, like the game Black before, go and play it and let me know how it is, and then pick up its sequel called Body Count. All right, moving down here, there's definitely maybe a couple of recommendations that I have left. Of course, right here, oh man, the Resistance games, where you get Resistance 1, 2, and 3. Like, such an amazing franchise. You cannot go wrong. The very first game was a launch title for the PS3, so definitely look out for it. Absolutely. The orange box, this is a cool one too, because it includes Half-Life 2 Episode 2, Team Fortress 2, and Portal, so definitely get that one. Another one to look out for is Spec Ops: The Line. This is a really cool military game. Amazing, right? And it talks about pretty much what soldiers go through after they've like faced like intense warfare, like with like the PTSD, the anxiety. I mean, this is man, there's some very brutal scenes, if you will, in this game, but it's definitely one worth playing for sure. One being because the main character is voiced by Nolan North, who is also he also voices Nathan Drake in the Uncharted series. Here's a cool one right here. This is the Chronicles of Riddick: Assault on Dark Athena. This is the sequel to the Chronicles of Riddick game that came out for the original Xbox. And what's cool about this is that it actually includes the first game. So you can play both games on one disc for the PlayStation 3. So it's definitely worth picking up for sure. Okay, so now that we're done with the first-person shooter games, it's time to move into my very small collection of music rhythm-based games. Two that I want to highlight is a prequel and a sequel, and it's the Hatsune Miku games. So this is the very first game right here called Project Diva F. And yeah, these are really cool, like rhythm-based games, you know, to where you have to like tap certain buttons. You know, if you think about like Parappa the Rapper, right? But this is on like a whole nother different level for sure. And then got like, you know, the sequel right here, Project Diva F2 or F2. So yeah, if you like Hatsune Miku, because I think she's been in some other games too, then definitely check out those two for sure. All right, moving on to sports. Now, the sports games is like the last genre in my collection, and I'm not really a big like sports game fan. Like, I'd rather either go watch the sport or go actually play it. But, you know, for those of you who don't know, basketball is my favorite sport. So most of the PS3 games that I own here, sports games, are for basketball. Which ones do I recommend? I gotta recommend, of course, NBA Jam. You know, NBA Jam. I think this is the last NBA Jam game that was released. I don't think there's ever been any other one created after this one. So I definitely recommend you picking this one up for sure if you do see it. And then of course there's NBA Street Home Court. This is pretty much NBA Street Volume 4, because we have Volume 1 through 3 that came out on the 6th gen consoles. And then this is pretty much like the 4th game, especially because, you know, you can see EA Sports big right there. So if you're looking to collect all the NBA Street games, you definitely want to get NBA Street Home Court with Carmelo Anthony on the front. And yeah, everyone, that's pretty much it. Like, those are all of my PlayStation 3 games. Like I said, there are 300 plus unique titles in this collection. So yeah, there we go. Okay, everyone, thank you all so much for tuning in to today's video where I was able to show off my entire PlayStation 3 collection. I do hope that there were some titles that you may have never heard before or wanting to add to your personal collection. And if you do like this type of content, I definitely encourage you to not only subscribe to the channel, but give this video a like and even comment down below maybe what was your favorite PlayStation 3 game that was shown. So once again, I appreciate you all watching this video. Have a Merry Christmas, and I'll see you all in 2026. I'm out.